How do we live godly lives in an ungodly world? This is the third part of this. These are the things we're going to be talking about today. Remember who you are, where you are. Set your mind in the kingdom. Notice it doesn't say on the kingdom, but in the kingdom. The dividing line between you and the world. I gotta tell you something. Next week, there are practical things that are coming, like how do you live godly lives in an ungodly world in your workplace, in your home, in your community. Okay? There are a lot of things that are just real practical things that Peter comes up with and shares with these folks. And so we're going to be getting into that next week. But today, it's still a little bit of theology. It's a little bit of the basis for it. But I think it's so important that we get this straight today. If we're going to live godly lives in an ungodly world, we have to get this straight. Now I'm going to tell you, if y'all don't start talking and asking questions, this is going to go on forever. What? Okay.
What's the difference between in and on regarding to your mind in the kingdom?
You'll find out.
Thanks.
Okay. Hey, do y'all ever read the news and see things that disgust you? See things that dishearten you? Things that distress you? Okay? Not necessarily yours, but in general, people in general, what are some common reactions to distressing, disgusting, and or disheartening behavior that you witness in person or that you see on the news? What are some common reactions? Laugh? No, I'm serious.
Yeah, laugh.
Laugh. What else? Anger?
Depression.
What?
Depression.
Depression? Yeah?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Rage? Withdrawal? Shock?
Judge.
Interesting. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking y'all may have hit upon the ones that I considered. Except maybe the halo. Y'all don't know that anybody mentioned that. This one, people just think about it and think, I wonder how that could happen, Shock. Charlie, yours is the one that's just straight across face, nothing. Just nothing. No response at all. Upset, anger, can't believe, sadness, surprise, whatever. How about the one with the halo? What does that mean?
It's either prayer or it's holier than thou.
Okay, either prayer or... So you're going to go with prayer so that you can seem holier than the rest of us, right? Okay, I got you. Yeah, I put it up there because I am thinking holier than thou. And a lot of people think, just like the Pharisee that was standing there with the sinner, I'm glad I'm not like him. I'm glad I ain't no druggie. I'm glad I ate this, I ate that. I'm glad I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad, and you're wearing your little halo so proudly. Oh yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty up there, ain't it? Yeah. So, we're going to talk about reactions and your reaction specifically as a Christian. But first, let's go over what we've already discussed from parts 1 and 2. The world is made up of ungodly people who live ungodly lives because they don't know God. Well, duh. That's why they are ungodly. Because they don't know God. However, those people are not our enemy. We tend to think of them as enemies sometimes because they're espousing things that are contrary to what we believe, what our opinions are, but more importantly, they are contrary to what God's law says. And so we tend to see them as the enemy. They are not. Our enemy is Satan. Our enemy is Satan, prince of this world. Okay? The battle lines are drawn between the forces of light and darkness. Isn't that true? Yeah. Darth Vader is dark. Luke Skywalker is light. Okay, I'm thinking a little bit higher up than that, but you get the point, right? We talked about good and evil and how those are themes that are in movies. Because that's what our world is. It is a fight between good and evil. The struggle is real.
Black hat and white hat and cowboy movies.
Yeah.
Spiritual warfare.
There you go. There you go. The recipients of Peter's letter were living in a world similar to ours. It was a world in which they were a minority, a religious minority. It was a world that was very centered on prosperity. It was a crossroads, if you will, and that was big stuff. The prevailing religious beliefs were very much centered on sex. They had temples, and they had temple prostitutes, male prostitutes and female prostitutes. They had prostitutes in the temples. That was the predominant thing that was in their world. That's where they lived. In these places where Peter sent the letter, there were temples that were set up to Greek gods, Roman gods, and that's what they were doing. Not only that, the religious thought of the day was so self-centered that it put our abortion, now I'm going to say this right up front, our abortion practices here in America are horrendous. I'm sorry. They are horrendous even by world standards. If you don't believe that, do the research. But Roman abortion standards were so far beyond what ours are in evil nature. Okay? Abortion's routine. If you had the baby, you didn't want it, you just left it out on the sidewalk. Okay? As a matter of fact, you might not know this, but one of the things that distinguished Christians in Rome itself was that they would go around and pick up these babies, take them home and raise them. And that was just ridiculous. That was just absolutely ridiculous thought. But they did. And they were noticed because they did. Because they were different. So, it's not a lot different than what we're experiencing today. So, we go first with, remember who you are, where you are. Okay? You are resident aliens on this planet. Right? It's a term we're familiar with, resident alien. Right? Of course, according to the news, we're more familiar with illegal alien, but you know. But we are resident aliens. Look at 1 Peter. By the way, if you're in the book of 1 Peter, you'll be in great shape throughout. I mean, there's only 2 or 3 verses that are outside that. Okay? So 1 Peter 1, to God's elect exiles of the dispersion. Do you see the word exiles in there? Or strangers. Some of you may have the word strangers in 1 Peter 1:1. Any of you have another word besides exiles or strangers? Aliens. Okay, yours has aliens.
Foreigners.
Okay, foreigners. You're foreigners. New American Standard? I didn't check it there.
Strangers.
Okay? Away from their homes. Yeah, away from their homes. Yeah, this is part of the dispersion of Jewish people. Okay? Especially Christians were taking off and getting out of Jerusalem because it was getting kind of hot there. All right? So they are dispersed around the world, but also Jews have started moving out. And so there are pockets of Jews all over this area, and a lot of times the Christians were hanging out in the same neighborhood as the Jews. Part of the dispersion, okay? So, you're resident aliens. And you think, no, man, I'm a citizen of these United States of Texas. Pardon me, slip of the tongue. These United States of America. I get emails all the time from the Texas nationalist movement. I'm not exactly sure why, but being a born and raised Texan, you know, born and reared right here in the Lone Star State, I wouldn't mind if Texas became a country, because then we could start getting some of that foreign aid I keep hearing about from the United States. Ain't that right? Hey, yeah, they're going to send us a check every month. That's right. Billions of dollars rolling in. That's true. Okay. So we are resident aliens. Look at 1 Peter 2, verse 11. Beloved, I urge you as sojourners and exiles to abstain from the passions of the flesh which wage war against your soul. Sojourners. Any of you have another word besides sojourners or exiles? What?
Strangers.
Strangers again?
Aliens.
Aliens. Okay. Okay. Foreigners. Yeah.
Pilgrim.
Pilgrims. Oh, good. Yeah. Pilgrims. No, not with the funny hats and the buckles on the shoes. No. Okay. By the way, I do have a kilt. I said kilt earlier. I may wear it. I may wear it to church one day. I'm doing the music in the services next week. Maybe I could wear it then. Oh yeah.
How do we go from pilgrims to kill?
Well, I don't really know. I don't know. I just thought about it anyway. Okay, are you convinced? We are aliens. Now they were aliens in that region. We are aliens on this planet. We are only passing through this planet. The world's in a terrible state. I wonder who began it. Whatever you do, don't blame me. I'm only passing through this planet. But actually, we can blame ourselves. We really can. Even though we are just passing through this planet. Even though we are strangers, aliens to this planet. But a lot of times, we don't like that designation. When I've traveled in other countries, one of the things that I have tried to do is fit in. Let me tell you one of the things that I did to fit in. At the time, I didn't buy a kilt. When we were in Scotland, I could not afford a kilt at that time. And by the way, this is not a kilt that's, plaid and all that. It's a utility kilt. Do you know what a utility kilt is?
Oh, the tactical.
Do you? You know what a utility kilt is? Yeah, you frown on them, do you?
No. I've got some friends that's
Yeah.
that's what they were.
Yeah, I know those friends of yours.
Yeah.
I know that. Anyway, but one of the things that I found out was that the way Europeans could tell we were Americans was if we wore white tennis shoes. I didn't wear white tennis shoes. Do you understand? We try to fit in here on this planet. We want to fit in, don't we? We don't want somebody to look at us and say, he's weird, she's weird. No, we don't want that. He's strange. We don't want that. We want to fit in. Yes, I know you do. I know you do. But guys, we are aliens. Next, look at 1 Peter 1, verses 2 through 5. This is who you are now. You are resident aliens. You are also chosen, saved, and kept by God. According to the foreknowledge of God the Father and the sanctification of the Spirit, for obedience to Jesus Christ, for sprinkling with his blood, may grace and peace be multiplied to you. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. According to his great mercy, he has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, to an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, unfading, kept in heaven for you, who by God's power are being guarded through faith for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. Go from the back to the front. You are kept, it's kept in heaven for you. Your salvation is, and it's kept by who? By God. It's not up to you. That's who you are. You are born again. How many of you have other words besides born again in verse 3? New birth.
Resurrection.
Okay, resurrection.
Begotten.
Do what?
Begotten.
Begotten. Okay? Guys, born again is a legitimate term. A lot of y'all are too young to remember it, but Jimmy Carter got in all kinds of trouble for saying he was born again.
What?
Well, because people thought that was silly. They thought that was funny. They thought that was country. They thought that was... I'm saying, that's what he said. I understand. How about, according to the foreknowledge of God, look back up there at verse 2. You were chosen. What does that mean?
You were chosen by God.
Wipe that smile off your face. What does it mean you were chosen?
We're all chosen. God has a perfect plan for each one of our lives. Look at John 3:16.
Okay.
So,
Whosoever. So we are all chosen. Okay. Why did he say you who were chosen?
we're all you. The sanctified.
Sanctified, the sanctified ones. Yeah, I got to tell you, there's a doctrine. It's called the doctrine of predestination or election. I don't worry about it. It is a doctrine. We are chosen by God. God did choose us. But I think it's kind of funny when we put English words or even Greek or Hebrew words on something that we really don't understand. In order for us to be predestined, or as the King James said, predestinated, okay? In order for that to be a thing, there has to be a pre and a post and a present, right? Guess what? God is neither pre nor post nor present. He exists outside of time. Do you realize this? Yeah. So, when we start thinking about this, and boy, there's some, and especially if you're a Calvinist in your belief system, and they get really hot and bothered about it, and I just can't, because I don't know how God does things. I don't operate outside of time.
Bob, to me, it's like a reminder of how we try to fit everything into our own human
Yes.
minds.
Yeah.
Like, even at predestination, like you think about it in the bad term, like it's God
Right.
decides who's saved and who's not.
Right.
Even though we have a hard time with that, that would still be God who is outside and is the creator. Now, we don't think that's the case, right?
Right.
We think
Right.
that we're all.
Exactly. And there's plenty of verses like the one you quoted to support that. But I just think it's interesting we get into that.
Predestination,
Yes.
carried to its full extent, of course, feeds into the holier than thou.
Yes, it does feed into the holier than thou.
Because I'm like, I'm predestined. I've got it.
Right.
You're sorry.
Right.
Sinner.
Right. Okay. How about 1 Peter 2:9? Oh no, we've already talked about that. Yeah. 1 Peter 2 verses 4 and 5. You are God's plan. Sometimes I wonder what God was thinking. Sometimes I just wonder what God was thinking, leaving it to us. I know God's not stupid. I know He's not ignorant. I know that He's got a plan. And we are it. There used to be a story about the angels in heaven gathered around Jesus just before He came to earth. And they were asking Him, how's it going to happen? What's going to happen? Well, I'm going to be born in a stable. I'm going to live a perfect life, and I'm going to die on the cross. But along the way, I'm going to pick up some people. I'm going to call them disciples. And those 12 disciples, they're not going to be theologians. They're just going to be ordinary people. And I'm going to take them, and I'm going to teach them. And then when I die and rise again, it's going to be in their hands. And the angels are going, okay, what's plan B? Right? Because you think about it. That's it? That's your plan? That's the plan. 1 Peter 2, 4 through 5. As you come to Him, a living stone rejected by men, but in the sight of God chosen and precious, you yourselves, like living stones, are being built up as a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Christ Jesus. Drop on down to verse 9 while you're there. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of Him who called you out of darkness into His marvelous light. You are living building blocks. You're living Legos. You got it?
Living proof.
Living proof. You.
In my Bible, it calls them a peculiar people, invisible.
Yeah, peculiar. Set aside. different. Guys, you're it. You are God's plan. In this ungodly world in which we live, you are God's plan. Like it or not, want it or not, it's you. Right? Some have greatness thrust upon them. That's you. That is you. I'm sorry. It's you. It is you. And look down there at that 9th verse. You remember what we were talking? We spent a lot of time last week talking about, and the week before talking about darkness and light. You see how that verse ends? You are responsible for bringing light into the darkness. You. Remember how we went over the scriptures? It said, you are the light of the world. After it said, Jesus is the light of the world. Now the scriptures come back and say, you are the light of the world, and it's your responsibility. You are God's plan. For an ungodly world, you are God's plan.
Gonna be the example.
You are the example. Let's go on. Set your mind in the kingdom, not on the kingdom. You ask the question. Here it is. You can set your mind on something, and all that means is that you're thinking about it. I'm thinking on this. I'm reckoning on this. It's a whole different thing to get into this. It's a whole different ballgame to get into the lives of people, to get into the way things are. It's a whole different thing. And you are setting your mind in the kingdom. If you're a sojourner, if you're a traveler, if you are an exile in this land, if you're only passing through this planet, you have to remember where home is. Your home is in the kingdom. You are kingdom citizens. You have to remember that. Otherwise, you get swept along by all of the worldly stuff that's a part of the culture. And you become, look around the room. How are y'all dressed? Like everybody else in the culture. Now, y'all need to be, I know Ross, if y'all are, you got to hear Ross's sermon. If I wasn't leading the music next week, I'd be wearing a tuxedo. No, I'm not wearing the kilt. But guys, the fact is that we ain't from around here. We ain't from around here. And it's okay spiritually to wear your kingdom clothes, your kingdom adornments, your kingdom finery. Do you understand? It's okay. It's fine for you to dress the way you're dressed. Y'all look great. Okay? That's not a problem. But spiritually, we tend to look like everybody else as well. Yeah. So what we need is a paradigm shift. I hate these terms. I hate. How many of you educators ever had to deal with the term paradigm shift? Anybody? Yeah. Paradigm shift. And I hated it when they talked with us about it. I hated it then and I hated it now, and here I am using it because it's the only way I can describe it. A paradigm is your normal way of viewing something. You can think of it as your worldview, but it's a little bit more directed toward what you do on a day-to-day basis. Okay? And the paradigm is, like for educators, the paradigm used to be, yell at them, scream at them, beat the snot out of them, and keep them in line. As a matter of fact, when I started teaching, which was right out of school, one of the things that I was told by an old veteran teacher was, you got to let them know who's boss on the first day. Well, actually, I did let them know who was boss on the first day, but I wasn't mean about it. Right? What was I mean about? Do you remember anything?
I don't know, our kids are in therapy, so. Well, they all adored you.
Don't try to make up for it. You've already, laid it out there. No, but they thought that I should be mean and heartless and cruel and just really, on the first day of class so that they know who's boss. Well, that can work. Works in the military, right? But guys, we had to go through a paradigm shift that said, and I was willing to go through it, that said, no, there is a kinder, gentler way to still, get your point across. I didn't have problems in the classroom. I never had problems in the classroom. And the reason was because I tried. I didn't always succeed, but I tried to treat people with respect. Junior high kids, treat them with respect. They will do anything for you. Isn't that right, Jen?
Yeah. Including stop talking.
Yeah. guys, it's a paradigm shift. You have to change your way of thinking. You have to get out of the old ways and into the new ways. Well, let's look at them. 1 Peter 1, verses 13. Therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. Notice the words minds, sober-minded. Do you have anything else in there?
Self-control.
Self-control. Good. One of the fruits of the Spirit, and one that we like to say we don't have sometimes, but we do. We do. Okay, what else? Do you have anything else in there? Besides self-control and minds, change your way of thinking. Does anybody have that?
That was verse 13.
Yeah.
Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Gird up your loins, the loins of your mind. I love it. So it's about thinking, right? It's about your mental attitude. How about 1 verses 17 through 21? And if you call on him as Father who judges impartially according to each one's deeds, conduct yourselves with fear throughout the time of your exile, knowing that you were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things such as silver or gold, but with the precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. He was foreknown before the foundation of the world, was made manifest in the last times for the sake of you, who through him are believers, who raised him from the dead and gave him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. Again, set your minds, knowing. You have to know it. You can't, it's not enough to just think it and think, yeah, well, I guess so, yeah. No, you have to know. You have to know. You have to absolutely know. Your mind has to be set right. How about 1 Peter 4, verses 1 and 2. Since, therefore, Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same way of thinking. For whoever has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, so as to live for the rest of the time in flesh, no longer for human passions, but for the will of God. You've got to arm yourselves with the same way of thinking. Now, I've added a couple of other verses down there from Romans. Romans 12:2. Anybody know what that says?
Do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed
By
through the renewing of your mind.
the renewing of your mind. Right? By the renewing of your mind. How about Colossians 3:2? Anybody know it? Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. You have to go through the paradigm shift. You have to stop thinking of yourself as part of this planet. You have to start thinking of yourself as a kingdom citizen who is here as an ambassador for Christ. Yes, ma'am.
And we're talking about this, and the thing that shifted my mind is in Ephesians chapter 2. It talks about us being raised up with Christ and seated with him in the heavenly realms once we became his. And so we're already, like...
I was going to say it's present tense.
That's right.
That's
so
right.
Spiritually, in a sense, we're already they're with him in the kingdom.
That's
of God.
exactly right. That is exactly right. We're there.
This kind of relates to your greatest days are not behind you, they are ahead of you.
There you go. Guys, do you realize what it means if you are an emissary? Do you realize what diplomatic immunity is? What is diplomatic immunity? You can't get no speeding tickets? Is that it? And you can't be charged with nothing. You can't be charged with nothing. You is untouchable. You is untouchable. Guess what? In this world, you have spiritual immunity.
Just need to make sure we don't abuse it.
You don't, yeah, don't abuse it, of course. But you do. See, we're so afraid. We're so afraid, and we're going to talk about this next week because I haven't even gotten to point 3 yet. But guys, we are so afraid of what people are going to say, what people are going to think, what they're going to do, what's going to happen to us, what will they think about us. We're so afraid of those things, but we have spiritual immunity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You've got to get your mind out of this world into that world. You have to live in this world, but you don't have to live up here in this world. One of the things I encourage you, if you haven't already done so, and if you have, do it again. Read some stuff by Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Yeah.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer has written some of the most incredible things. Okay,
Entire family was killed and he's trying to take down the Nazis.
right.
Wow, that was close.
He is. What did you say? He was a Nazi?
It sounded like a Nazi.
Lindsay, I'm so glad you heard and corrected him. Yes. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer did not mentally and spiritually live in this world, nor in the conditions that he had to endure. Do you understand? His mind was in the kingdom. Consequently, he was able to share some of the most deep thoughts that you can ever imagine when it comes to suffering, when it comes to peace, when it comes to just the hope that you can have in the midst of anything that's going on around you. Guys, that's where our mind needs to be. Not on the circumstances that are going on around us, but on God. I'm bad, man. I see something happen, and what do? I immediately start worrying about it. I've been working on. I'll tell you a story, and then I'm going to let you go. I promise. We had a window. It's been some time ago, but we had a window in our bedroom blow out during one of these windstorms. We live up on a hill, and we always have high winds. I don't know how high the winds got this time, but the wood across the base was somewhat rotten, and it blew that window in. Okay, nobody was hurt, nothing like that. Scared the fool out of me. But I've been working on this window. Finally, I got it rebuilt. Right? I rebuilt this one. I rebuilt a window. Did you hear me? From scratch. Well, no, not from scratch, from the part of the frame. Anyway, I rebuilt this window, and in the process, I thought, oh man, I gotta make sure I have glass when I'm done. So I measured it. Don't laugh, Harlan. I measured it for the glass, right? Somewhere between me measuring and me picking up the glass, something shifted somewhere. I think it was that little piece just kind of shifted over a little bit. And all of a sudden, my glass didn't fit. I had to go get glass yesterday to put it into the window. The thing is, guys, I was telling that story for absolutely no reason. What were we talking about? What? Not my guilt. No, not my guilt. I have no idea where this was going.
This is what we call a senior moment.
This is a senior moment. Okay, I'm going to remember. Y'all check your email. I'm going to remember what the point of that was. And y'all are going to have to check your email to find out what it was. Oh. Would you? Yeah. Hey,
Twice at once?
do what? Measure. Did you say measure twice, cut once? I did measure. I measured a whole bunch of times. I just kept on working after that. I'll remember. I'll tell you what it was. Let's pray. Father, we thank you. We thank you that we can laugh at the foolishness that we go through down here on earth, trying to fit in, trying to make things work when they don't work. Father, help us to trust you. Help us to fix our minds on you. Fix our thoughts on things above, not on earthly things. Because it's only then that we can ever make sense of who we are, where we are in your world as agents of light. Keep our focus on you. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.